About a couple of minutes past 5 into hour 2 of Drive for Wednesday across the UK on the home of free speech and common sense. You're very welcome to talk if you want to be part of the debate. As ever, 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. Text to 87222. My daughter just texted me on my LinkedIn page, not that you'll understand, I need some more connections, Dad. What does that even mean? What's LinkedIn? Peter Bleksley is here. Do you know what that is?
Yes, I do.
Oh, gee.
It is the most tiresome, tedious social media platform in the world.
Is it?
Okay, yes.
Good man.
Yeah, but it's only populated by people who are utterly brilliant, because they tell you that. Whenever you go onto anybody's LinkedIn profile... No.
We're rubbish.
Completely pointless.
Anyway, good to see you, man from Del Monte. What's going on with that jacket today?
I say yes.
Right, loads to talk about. And I read this in the paper last night, and I literally texted Ryan at 11 o'clock, and I went, "You've got to get the main man tomorrow." So delighted you're here.
Thank you.
I want you to take a breath, because this is right up your street. Britain's most senior police chiefs have today directly reminded or warned Sir Dreary Starmer that they will face stark choices about which crimes they need to investigate if the Treasury pushes ahead with cuts. In a significant escalation before the spending room, Sir Mark Rowley, the head of the Met, and other senior police officers have written to the PM warning that cuts will have far-reaching consequences. They said negotiations between the Home Office and the Treasury were going poorly, and further cautioned that there would be a return to cuts to frontline policing last seen under austerity. Now, I'll give you, Rowley obviously wants more money, but I would like to just I feel like I'm going to throw a bit of meat into a sort of a crocodile thing. They won't be able to investigate crime? Oh, I didn't think they tended to do that unless you sent a bloody tweet nowadays.
Well, come on now, let's think about it. If you have your house burgled, dreadful,
terrible,
very serious crime, by the way.
Yep.
Which some people simply never recover from. They have to move home.
Psychologically,
and
quite right.
They carry that trauma with them for life. Burglary, no, largely doesn't get investigated. You know, if you work so hard to afford that decent van in which you carry your tools and it's the lifeblood of your business, and you come down in the morning and some unscrupulous thieving so-and-so has nicked it, will that be investigated?
No.
So we all carry our lives, or so many of us do, within our phones. You come to London, you're thinking of going to the theatre for the night. You've saved up. You've bought expensive tickets. You're dressed in your finery, as is your wife. You come out of the railway station, go onto the Maps app to see where you're going.
You're doing it with your hand. Yeah.
And along comes some hoodlum, probably on an electric bike, and snatches that from you. Now, will that get investigated?
No, that won't either.
No, probably not.
No.
You get pickpocketed on the tube, forget it. And the list goes on. In fact, the only way that you will, in all likelihood, get a fully resourced, professionally investigated crime in Britain in 2025 is if you are the victim of murder.
That right?
It's a bit too late for you as the victim, isn't it?
I actually never disagree with you, but I'm about to. If you call somebody a nasty name, the police will come in their droves to arrest you. 6 of them, probably. True?
Oh, what, on social media, you mean?
Yes.
Say something that somebody gets deeply offended by.
Yes, like I didn't like the teacher and the way they treated my child. We're sending 8 people round to arrest you, you piece of rubbish.
And then only to find out some weeks later that you were guilty of committing no crime whatsoever.
It's laughable.
And they want more money to do that.
This is about money, isn't it? Nothing more.
It is. Whilst they spend... And we need to mention this because this has been a hot topic of late, whilst they spend millions of pounds on diversity, equality and inclusion.
I learnt something yesterday about horns and, what was the other thing? What was it called? Halos. Do you know what this is?
No, I don't.
This is part of diversity, exclusivity and the other word, training in the NHS. And so people who work... You know, left-wingers, people who think they're saving the world, they've got halos, and anybody like you and me with an opinion has got horns with the devil.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you, and I don't want to be too distasteful, but it has been known that I've been a horny devil from time to
Hey,
time.
there we go. Certainly not a fact backed up by Mrs. Bleksley, who's long-suffering and is in care.
Plenty of children.
Really? Not yours. No, on a serious note, this is just. I mean, you make the point. I mean, I remember us talking a couple of years ago when we had a shopkeeper. We were doing the JK Live thing, and this guy had spent his life building this shop. And you can nowadays go into a shop and nick £199 worth of stuff that this guy's old lady has worked hard for, and they ain't getting anything. We had a phone call before, you wouldn't have heard it. It was at 4:10. Guy in Paisley in Scotland driving along. Check this out the other day. Driving on the motorway, brick lobbed. This was last Thursday. Smashed his windscreen. He has to veer. He could have gone into other cars. He could have died. Could have caused injury. Phoned the police. Took him 40 minutes to arrive in Scotland. They gave him an insurance number. He phoned the station on the Monday to say what's going on. Case dropped.
Yeah, a case quite easily
Could have caused death.
Could have resulted, yes,
Yeah.
in death, quite easily. But of course, the police, so many of them have their two favourite questions when they rock up to a victim of crime, if they in fact do rock up, and that is, have you got any CCTV?
Yeah, that's exactly what they said to me when I'm driving a bleeding car.
Or the second question is, do you know who did it? And you see, if your answer to both of those questions is no, then they are such numbskulls, so poorly trained, so ineffective, so incapable of conducting an investigation, they say, oh, well, then they write it off. Now, let me just remind you, if I may, and the audience...
Absolutely, always.
...that when I was a young detective...
In 1745.
In the 1980s, 5:45, in the 1980s, OK, there was no CCTV.
No.
And most people who were victims of crime, like burglary, car theft and the such like, of course, didn't know who did it. And yet, do you know what? We investigated.
But we know how
those
you
crimes,
investigate it because
and
you
we
had
caught
coppers
people.
on the streets and you got intel and you had networks, and nowadays it's all computerised. Do you blame, you called them numbskulls, do you blame the policemen and women on the streets, or are you saying, from what you're saying, that it's right above, that there is not the direction, there is not the training, the resources, the desire? It's now a job whereby it's a tick box situation, isn't it? It's more important to get that crime apparently than that crime.
All of the aforementioned is accurate, and I have long been a defender of the courageous men and women on that front line who, to use that very apt cliche, run towards danger when others would run away from it.
Yeah, true.
But increasingly, the front line is being populated by the wokerati as well.
Is it?
By people who are not suitable to do that job, people who, with the blessing of lunatic organisations like the College of Policing and the National Police Chiefs Council, hand down this pseudo-liberal kind of mindset where all the ludicrousness and the tolerance of stuff that should not be tolerated in a disciplined organisation is permitted, if not encouraged.
Which is really worrying, isn't it? Can you hear if we do a call, or has he not got an ear set in? He can't hear. Oh, right, we're going to dip the mic so you can hear. I want to do a call quickly because it's about police cuts. Nick in London. Nick, you're on Talk Drive. How are you?
Very well, Jeremy. Hello, Peter. I hope you're well. We're in June, the Pride Month, God help us, and the police seem to have plenty of money to go to Pride events, repaint their cars, presumably when the month's over, paint them back. And at the same time, they've got plenty of money for that. At the same time, they're telling the government they've not got enough money to investigate important crime, burglaries, rapes, murders, and so on. Well, you can't have it both ways. You've either got plenty of money for the nice liberal lefty stuff of Pride Month, for example, or you haven't got enough money to investigate crime as you ought to.
Yeah, I did comment, didn't I, on that very thing about the whole DEI expenditure in terms of diversity officers and the such like. However, I did see a police car only the other day, an image of a police car that's trying to get around that they didn't paint the police car. This car wasn't painted in Pride colours because, of course, that would have cost money, and how many times have I sat in the studio railing against that? But what they did do was drape a bit of bunting over it. So thereby they show their allegiance and don't spend money.
Nick, can I just ask you something? You're in London, you know, the crime capital of the world. You've got a mayor who doesn't seem to want to be able to do anything about knife crime. He seems to want to support other things. Am I wrong in assuming, I don't know how old you are, but when I was brought up, I was scared of the police, and they were there to sort crime out and make sure the streets were well organised. It's gone completely the other way, pal, hasn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I'm more or less your age, Jeremy, and I can still remember the name of the local officer on my home beat, which was a hometown area, Hampton, which is hardly Badlands. Hampton still isn't. And the local officer kept the place safe by being around and seen and visible, and he kept high-level crime down and low-level crime down. I can still remember him turning up outside school some mornings and making boys riding bikes on pavements run up and down to the huge merriment and mickey taking of our schoolmates, and it stopped it. You know, it stopped. You knew if you did something wrong, you'll get a visit from this place.
Drag you by the ear. Thank you so much indeed, Nick. You drag them by the ear back home to your parents and humiliate you. Now kids give the V's to the coppers and run off down the street. Could you survive? And I'm being completely serious. Could you survive in that job today?
Not as a frontline uniformed officer. No, I couldn't. Let's just look at the case of that PC in Devon and Cornwall that got sacked last week for sort of rugby tackling a young man and not being civil to him, being a bit too impolite towards this young man from whose waistband a Stanley knife fell as he was tackled to the ground.
Oh, right. A Stanley knife, and he tackled him and the policeman got into trouble.
So, no, my colourful language, my robust approach and my determination to take scum off the street would probably mean I was deemed unsuitable.
Well, it certainly means you always get on here. That's good. So you're not that impressed with that. I'm going to throw at you the other main news of the day, because we love that, because you're not given for not giving it out, are you? So we'll be very quick. Despite the fact for the past 6 years, or maybe 4 years, we've given the French £500 million a year to try and police the boats that leave the French shores to come here, because apparently it's war-torn in France. No, it's not. There are hotels here, not tents. They've done bugger all. However, Macron's arriving on July the 8th for a Franco-British summit, at which point today the French have pledged to come up with a plan within the next 6 weeks, 42 days, to intercept migrant taxi boats at sea for the very first time. Lies.
I think Macron's getting a state visit, actually, as it happens.
Is
all
he?
bells and whistles, the whole shebang.
It's a bit of a slap in the face for his wife, isn't it?
And these new regulations, boom,
Thank
these
you.
new French regulations mean that their gendarmes will be able to challenge the boats if they are within 300 metres of the French coast.
Right.
So, how many cases are we going to have when Officer Pierre or Poirot goes to his supervisor and says, "I'm very sorry, Signor," or whatever it is, I don't know.
Signor, we've gone from French to
exactly.
Spanish, it's good.
Until I only speak one language, barely. I'm afraid, we would have intercepted, but it was 302 yards from our coast, and we were powerless to do that. Anyway, it'll be at Dover in a few hours, safe and sound. They'll all be picked up by the
We'll get the RNLI, I'll do it. I had that the other day. My old girl used to volunteer for the RNLI, and I walked straight past them with a bucket, and I nearly said, I'm not giving you any more because I know what you do. Now, the other news today, judges are granting, this is awful. Mike used to do Migrant of the Day, still does it on his brilliant breakfast show. We've been telling loads of stories about people grabbing hold of the ECHR and getting to stay here. There might be a murderer or a paedophile, but they come up with some obscure law. Judges are granting exceptional asylum claims in a third of cases.
Oh,
Pete.
yes.
A third of cases, Pete.
Yes. And, of course, what really lies at the very heart of this is the interpretation of the European Convention on Human Rights, and what they say. And, of course, we've got all these lily-livered, liberal, frigging floppy-minded judges who are allowing murderers and paedophiles to stay in the UK.
Absolutely right.
But, you see, some European countries are waking up, and they've written to the ECHR to express their concerns, and they want them to change. They want change. These 9 European countries expressing their concerns in this letter are written by the leaders of Italy, Denmark, Austria, Belgium, the Czech Republic, Poland, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. All deeply concerned. Spot the country that's missing. Oh yes, Britain.
Oh yeah, no, we can't criticise the each other. The lefties tell me this. Do you want to know why? Because the only 2 countries in the world who aren't part of it are Belarus and Russia, and that will make us look like them. I don't believe that Churchill, who put this together 150 million trillion years ago, probably knew in that moment that the world was going to be like this. It is being taken advantage of by people so they can stay in this country. And Pete, I will say this till the cows come home. This went on for years. Whether it's the cost of living, whether it's COVID, whatever it is, the pandemic, right?
Yep.
The British people are now going, we're skint, we're at the back of the queue, these people are being treated better, this is a bloody disgrace. That is what politics right now is centred on.
Correct.
1,000,000%.
Correct. But fear not, because the Prime Minister, Starmer, stumble when I say Starmer, has previously said that he wants to ensure the right balance is struck in migration cases that go to that court. So I think the right balance should be that if you commit a crime in this country where you have come to make your life, then you lose all your rights.
But I've had this argument with those left-wing lawyers, and they will say this: well, you didn't commit the crime in the country that you came from. You did it here, so you should stay here. No, because if you hadn't come here in the first place illegally, the crime wouldn't have been committed. I don't think. I was talking to somebody today. It's weird how the world has changed. Certainly this country, and I know the lefties hate me when I say this. They hate me anyway. But I think the British people, Pete, who have always been very fair and reasonable, and I think we've always put ourselves, out. I think they are now saying, sorry, charity begins at home. And I think that's a direct result of the fact that many people think we are being taken advantage of, aren't we?
Another big story today, the white British people in this country are heading towards being a minority throughout the country, not just in London, where we already are, but throughout the country in the coming decades. So what is happening to the country? Clearly, our culture, our pride in this country, our love of this country is inevitably diluted when you import millions of people into this country who do not have a connection, an affection, a love and a pride for this nation. They simply can't. It's impossible to expect them to.
No.
You'd like to think that those who contribute and graft and become those brilliant doctors and nurses and the other people that make this country what it is.
Your guy that runs the curry house, the guy that drives me, fantastic, brilliant people, and more angry about it, by the way, the guy that drives me.
Yes.
More angry than people who were born here. And I'm being serious, because he grafts. But you cannot, I think, anymore expect the British people, certainly with what they're having to go through, to think it's OK for thousands of people to come in. I mean, I've said this to you repeatedly. Right, I've said this to you repeatedly, but you're married been punching with Mrs. Bleksley for a long time. But if you were in a war-torn country and there were bombs raining down your boy's head and your wife's head, you'd bring them with you, wouldn't you?
Well, I'd stay there to keep them safe first and foremost.
Yeah, but if you were escaping, you'd bring them with you.
to fight the enemy.
Yeah,
that were throwing those bombs in.
But you know what I'm saying?
Right, but yes.
And then if you escaped in the middle of the night in whatever with your family, and the first place you got to where there weren't bombs raining down your head, you'd go, oh, this is lovely. No. We've got to get to the United Kingdom, because for me, the biggest deterrent in this country is not Rwanda or stopping the boats or sending them to the Falkland Islands. It's to stop giving them so bloody much when they come here to the detriment of the British people. That's it. It's not rocket science.
Soft touch UK.
Yeah.
That's what we are. Yeah. They know it. They admit it.
Yeah.
When you see them interviewed, when they're on the other side of the channel, they admit it. They know they want to come here because they will be catered for. And if somebody could name me a country that I could get in a dinghy, sail to, and be fed, watered, housed, clothed, I'd like to know where it is. All for free.
John Baldock in North Hart, he's angry with me. He says, understand the point you're making, Carl, however, please stick to the fact London is not even close to being the crime capital of the world.
London has a higher crime rate today than it did this time last year. It has utterly unacceptable levels of violence, harassments against women and girls. The murder rate would appear to be coming down this year, but those things are very cyclical and could be topsy-turvy from one year to another. And if he wants to come in London and be taken on a tour, I'll gladly do that, and I'll show you the lawlessness that exists down here.
I love having you on this show. My father-in-law, who listens every day, always texts. We'll read this before we send you away, because it will be Peter Bleksley. He says, Pete's right. I was scared of the police when I was young. That was the whole point. And that's true, isn't it? He's 80.
Yeah, but you see, modern police think that policing is a popularity contest, right? It's anything but. In fact, you should wear your unpopularity amongst criminals as a badge of honour. You want to be unpopular with criminals. You want them to hate you. And back in the day, they hated me and my colleagues.
I love you, though. Peter Bleksley, what absolutely fantastic. This winter, I think we should do Panto, you, me and Mike. Imagine.
Oh, no, we shouldn't.
Oh, yes, we should. And John Redwood. He'd be a great dame. Hey-ho.